Today guys, I'm going to talk about my all-time favourite class in World of Warcraft, the Death Knight, and why you need to at least give this class a try in Wrath of the Lich King. For clarification, you should play whatever class you want and play the game how you want to play it. Today I'm just giving a recommendation. If you know you don't like the Death Knight, then why on earth have you clicked the video, you absolute flump? The Wrath of the Lich King version of the Death Knight is arguably the Death Knight in its best state when it comes to gameplay, style, and class fantasy. Although admittedly I'm a huge fan of the Legion Death Knight overhaul. That can be a video for another time. So let me tell you why I find this class so fun to play. Well, first of all, it's not boring. The Unholy playstyle is an action-packed, fast-paced rotation. I remember upcoming to the Wrath launch, many people criticised Unholy for being boring and slow, but people saying this very clearly were either not playing the spec correctly or just have no idea what they were talking about. The rotation has an actual variety of abilities, unlike most of the specs that only have 3 buttons. This can be difficult for some players to figure out, but I don't think the rotation is extremely difficult to master, especially as you can just use Fonz's next action weak aura, which is amazing by the way, to help you perfect the rotation. My preference is when classes get more complicated than the Holy DK, it's when they honestly become a little bit boring and frustrating, especially if they require many instances of perfect timing and RNG. Unholy is easy enough to pick up, but to master the spec, a level of skill and RNG is definitely required to become a top 5% parser. There's a number of min-max tricks to learn and apply to your playstyle to keep the class refreshingly challenging in a fun way over a longer period of time. Basically, it will take you quite a while before you get bored of playing a DK. By the way guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and give me a quick follow on Twitch where we are doing the hardcore leveling challenge on a warrior. Now, one of the most satisfying playstyle elements of Unholy is the Gargoyle Snapshot. The Gargoyle snapshots your current attack power stat and dynamically now updates its own haste with your haste stat. This means you can't just pop it whenever you want or at the start of a fight, because you can double if not triple its damage with good timing. And this is where the main skill ceiling lies with playing the Death Knight, because you have to obviously get perfect timing. You want to pop it during a Bloodlust, but also during a Trinket and Rune of the Fallen Crusader proc, and you do have to do a quick swap to Unholy Presence before the Gargoyle pops off. Now, when the stars line up, you have every single proc imaginable during a Bloodlust, and you pop all your trinkets, a glove engineering enchants, and then on top of that, you follow up with an Army of the Dead perfectly snapshotted. Also, it is the best feeling you can feel playing this game. It's when you've pulled off a big pumper gargoyle. It is the same way in which gambling can be very fun, satisfying, and very addictive. But I guess at least popping a gargoyle doesn't destroy our lives. For people who have never experienced this sensation, it's like when you're with a chick and she grabs your gurgles a little champagne while tickling your before you know it, she has a bottle of Sillet Bang in her hand, but she This goes on for about 30 minutes before she finally clears the table and does the washing up. One of the irritating things about playing a melee in this game is having to run away from the boss during certain mechanics. Nobody likes downtime because there's valuable time there that could be spent pumping. Luckily the Death Knight is just as tough as pre-millennial dad hands. Not those kind of dad hands that can't even change a car tyre, but the dad hands that have calluses as thick as concrete, capable of building skyscrapers and repairing tanks. Normally you can just soak damage and you don't even need to move away. Firstly, you have Bone Shield, reducing damage by 20%. When you don't have stacks of this up, you can use Icebound Fortitude, which reduces damage by 30% for 12 seconds, and also prevents you from being stunned, which can be also very useful avoiding mechanics that give you downtime. Anti-Magic Shell reduces magic damage taken by 75% up to a max of 50% of your health. And then on top of this, you can use Death Pack to heal you for 40% health, and Death Strike, if you have to use it, will heal you for 15% total health each hit. This is very, very useful when taking on XT. You have to be trying very hard to die playing a Death Knight or just simply not using your full toolkit because you are an absolute beefcake. Speaking of beefcakes, we also have the Blood Death Knight to talk about. The Blood DK is a very unique style of tank. You take more damage than other tanks because you're not able to equip a shield or have bear form, but their parry scales off your strength, and they have a lot more self-healing and cooldowns than other tanks. To be honest, on a lot of fights, when you have a Blood Death Knight tanking, the healer can just, well, doesn't even need to heal the Death Knight sometimes. Well, not on every single fight, but you know, in certain fights, the Death Knight self-heal themselves so much, it's just a waste of time to heal him, because you're just going to overheal the Death Knight. There are so many different builds and playstyles that you can use as a Death Knight tank, so it's hard to get bored of playing it. You can go deeper into Blood Spec, you can go deeper into Frost, or you can get yourself a permanent goal that you can explode with Corpse Explosion for good AoE damage and aggro. There's so many different tank builds that you can go for, which keeps things interesting. I would say there's at least 5 perfectly viable specs that you can bring to a raid, if not more. And it goes without saying that as a Death Knight you have access to the best looking tier sets in the game. People have transmogged the Wrath of the Lich King sets for years and years and probably still do on retail. Now you might be sat there waiting for me to talk about Frost spec. Well, you see, I can't actually do that because Death Knight doesn't have a Frost spec. It's actually a Mage spec commonly used in PvP. It is a very common misconception whenever you see the Frost Presence logo on Details. It isn't actually a Frost DK there. It is actually just an Unholy Death Knight, but Details is incorrectly showing the specialization of that particular Death Knight player, because Frost is a Mage spec. By the way guys, be sure to follow me on Instagram to get some early sneak peeks of my videos before they are released. But anyway, until my next video, ciao.